Oh, absolutely. Now, just kind of going off the idea of telling stories through music, what kind of influences, um, or I guess you could say, what sort of stories have inspired you to try and tell those, I guess, tell similar stories throughout your music?
Yeah. I mean, even if it's referencing not only day to day life, but books that I've read. So over the past year, I dove into David Wilcock's
Oh,
source field
okay. Yeah,
investigations.
yeah, yeah.
So that was a really powerful book for me, just on merging of science and spirituality. I thought it was really cutting edge the way that he does that, and a lot of the artists I resonate with kind of merge science and spirituality, and I think that they actually are one thing. And the way it's been kind of created as two distinct fields. I think that a lot of the great artists and writers of our era these days are kind of merging the two,
Oh,
whether
absolutely.
it's the science of physiology with the chakra systems of Eastern medicine. I think all of that's kind of coming into play right now in our world, and you see a lot of Western society kind of heading in that direction of kind of um, benefiting from the wisdom of the East, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, spirituality in general, religion, a lot of ways, just wants to instill that sense of inner awe, appreciation, and inspiration for life. Um, and when you have that feeling, like it's a profound experience that allows you to, like, I don't know, be at peace with who you are and where you are in your experience in the universe. And in a lot of ways, science like provides that. Like, if you sit and you study quantum physics, like just the just the profound possibilities that exist that you can't even begin to comprehend, like it makes you feel that sense of awe as well. So a lot of ways, science and spirituality kind of give you the same kind of, well, not the same kind of level of enlightenment, but a similar experience of appreciation.
Definitely, definitely, it is awe-inspiring to say the least. And I think you hit it right on the head with quantum physics is kind of that merging of science and spirituality. I think that's perfect the way you said that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, particularly, you can take music into that too, with different keys, how they relate to different, kind of triggers for mood in the brain. It's different vibrational rates and how they kind of affect the way we perceive things.
Definitely, and there's a lot of that I've discovered over recent years, as far as different frequencies having different effects on the body.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's this whole healing aspect to vibration that's come about a lot more in the
Mm-hmm.
recent years, and I'm seeing a lot more YouTube videos that are the entire experience is at a certain frequency,
Mm-hmm.
and I find that pretty interesting. And then you get into cymatics and the way that sound creates certain shapes and geometry in water or sand that's vibrated on top of a surface. If you've seen those, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it's this different frequencies create different geometric shapes, which is
Really?
really interesting and to think about that and how that impacts the body. And so again, yeah, you're merging science with kind of that um, science and spirituality and sacred geometry, and all of that kind of comes into play. And for me, it kind of makes sense to think that they said the universe began with sound, and so I kind of picture like this giant ohm in the universe, and that all the particles begin to kind of vibrate into place,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you get this kind of creation myth around it. And I'm just like, wow, that's really profound. And David Wilcock talks a lot about that in his book, The Source Field, about how the Platonic solids really, along with gravity, are like God, are like the organizing principle
Right,
for
right,
the
right.
cosmos. The cosmos spirals, the Fibonacci spiral. He goes into this deep discussion about spirals and how all galaxies, or you know, many of the galaxies are organized into according to that principle.
Well, yeah, particularly, when you're talking about Pythagoreanism, just that correlation between the stages of creation to the different numbers, as well as their sacred relation to the solids. So, monad being one, so on and so forth, and how those kind of almost represent a Kabbalistic structuring of how reality exists, from like, higher vibrational rates to, the more denser material vibrational rates.
And that reminds me of that Bill Hicks quote, where young man on acid realized that, I'm not quoting it perfectly, that all matter was merely energy condensed to a slower vibration.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
really love that
absolutely.
quote.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you, like, how much of an influence, I mean, maybe more as a sound engineer than a musician, do you put that kind of emphasis in on your tracks? Primarily when, you're kind of looking at trying to tell a story throughout an entire album. Do you like place different songs at different like rates of vibration to try and, I don't know, kind of like focus attention a certain way?
The first time we actually tried to tune an album to a specific frequency was this Sound of Tao album. What was it, the 432 hertz? We actually tuned intentionally to make that album specifically a certain vibration throughout even the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of a thematic choice that we made, and that album has no almost no rhythms in it whatsoever, and the songs are
Hmm.
sometimes 15 minutes long.
So just like kind of like
And
super synthy ambient stuff.
um, some synth, but more flute and
Okay.
Asian instruments that my buddy Imani had collected. And then yes, we used MIDI instruments as well, but a lot of like very open drones, and then we used our voices and a lot of reverb, and but you can actually tune instruments to um, certain hertz, a certain frequency,
Mm-hmm.
which is really a cool technique that I'm still learning how to use more with MIDI instruments. Yeah.
I think it'd be just like talking about that blending of like spirituality, art, and science. I think it'd be really cool if you were talking about how you had like the different geometric shapes that were coming from. For were those coming from hertz or coming from different keys? You were saying.
With the cymatics, the if I'll send you some videos of that
Yeah.
when we get finished here.
Yeah.
But it's just literally like a low frequency,
Okay.
and they turn the knob, and as the higher it goes, it creates different shapes.
So I think it
It's
would
really interesting.
be.
More intricate, I think, the higher the frequency, more because the waveforms are shorter on higher frequency sound, as opposed to a really deep bass sound, which is a very long, slow wave
Yeah.
form from the measurement point of view. Yeah, so the frequency is just simply the distance between the two um, peaks of the wave.
I think it'd be super interesting to like, pair those exact frequencies with, visual realistic representations, even like artwork at a show of those different geometric patterns that they
Uh,
actually make in real life, and then just kind of subjectively, put those things, in the musical experience. Wonder how that would affect different people's mood. Like I don't know if you could actually like be able to like record actual results for that thing. Hand out a survey afterwards. But that's kind of cool idea.
I've never thought to be that intentional about it, but that's a great idea. Thanks for that one. Maybe that'll help guide a specific journey someday.
Yeah,
That concept, I like it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, just the idea of like approaching it with like more of a I don't know, scientific intention. Like if you going off that album you were talking about, that like was supposed to portray like a certain mood based on
Hmm.
the key that it was in. Like if you actually like played it live and you had a group of people, and then you record their reactions or their feelings like on a scale of 1 to 10 throughout the performance, keeping track of it like every 5 minutes. I wonder if it would actually influence those moods, and then you can kind of like take their perspectives afterward, and get more of like a direct explanation of how they felt, and kind of their insights into why.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, doing more research into the impact that certain frequencies have on people, I think, is an awesome idea for sure.
Well, yeah, because
Definitely.
well, now was it? No, it wasn't the frequencies. It was the certain keys that would relate to different chakras as well, if I do remember correctly. So if you, well, I mean, have you ever, tried to focus, certain musical albums on chakra work? I mean, a lot of your stuff is very esoterically focused.
Well, I think the general idea with the slower album that we tuned to a certain frequency was that it would be very open to meditation, more a meditative state, which is a certain type of state of mind.
Hmm.
So less busy, not so many notes. So that's what it reflects, that kind of meditative state that you would go into if you were to sit down and just try to quiet the mind. So it's not busy, it's very mellow, very mellow. And then that's kind of the opening of a lot of ecstatic dances.
Hmm.
And you'll have this very open, calm, almost just like a mantra or something very, very mellow and soothing. And then that gradually picks up, and maybe you feel a little shaker come in, and that's when the rhythm and the pulse starts to pick up over time. So there is a lot of example of how people feel. People feel very calm when they hear that kind of open frequency that's very mellow and soothing. It's very good for yoga. And then you see people's excitement pick up when they get the tribal drums added
Yeah.
to that. So yeah, it's very calculated, I think.